So, I welcome all the participants to today's which is on cybersecurity in Indian hospitals, and thank Dr. Rajan Pal for joining us today, talking on such an important topic, which is of immense importance nowadays because after the incidents that took place in AIMS, the premier institution of the country, all of us were worried about the cybersecurity in the hospitals. So we thought it will be most appropriate to listen from him since he is working in a cybersecurity organization, and he will be able to, guide us properly. And I am really thankful to Major Guruprasad, who is a veteran and independent healthcare care consultant at Bengaluru. I welcome you and
Thank you, sir.
thank you for moderating today's session. Dr. Mahesh is
Thank you,
overall
sir.
in charge of these, webinars, and he is doing wonderful job. I thank you also. I welcome all the BOE members and the esteemed members of AHA and all of the participants to today's webinar. I will not take you much of time. I hand over to Dr. Guru to start the today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think that was loud and clear. Dr. Mahesh, so do we start the program now? Or,
go ahead.
yeah?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Okay. So it's 7:30 sharp. Ladies and gentlemen, namaskaram. This is Major Guruprasad Thimmaiah here, and I'm immensely delighted to welcome you all on behalf of the Academy of Hospital Administration to this very special webinar. Just to introduce myself, I'm a proud alumnus of the prestigious PGI Chandigarh, and I have just rejoined to complete my SR-ship here. I'm an ex-army officer with some noteworthy contributions in some of the toughest battle zones, highest battlefields: Siachen Glacier, Kargil, Dras, Uri, and Pokhran. And thereafter, moved on to test my entrepreneurship and the curiosity over there with my own venture, and then had held some leadership positions at some of the well-entrenched players in the field of pharmaceuticals, healthcare, and hospitals. So it's been about 24 years of accelerated management experience. So that's about me. And ladies and gentlemen, as I had mentioned earlier, today's webinar is indeed a very, very special one. Simply because this is on something that is a great cause of concern. As Dr. Yashpal just mentioned earlier, in today's digital world, we are immensely being threatened on our cyber security. So what's happening is the cyber criminals have now begun to target the healthcare industry in general and the hospitals in particular. And what is happening is they're using ransomware, malwares, in which they encrypt these infected devices, which are interconnected through IoTs and other network drivers. And once they do this, they take complete control of the entire digital ecosystem of our hospitals, and then they start demanding a ransom. So before 2016, healthcare organizations were definitely not thought to be a primary target. But now, as per a report by the Ponemon Institute, which is a prestigious institution in Michigan, 89% of the healthcare organizations have suffered at least one data breach involving loss of precious patient data over a 2-year time frame. So as Dr.
गुरु आप म्यूट हो गए. I don't know why.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let me just begin. Ladies and gentlemen, namaskaram. I am Major Guruprasad Thimmaiah, and I'm immensely delighted to welcome. Okay.
Guru, you just
now, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. So as I was mentioning to you, it was this recent threat of the Chinese launched ransomware attack, which Dr. Yashpal was just mentioning, on one of our institutions of national importance, which is AIIMS Delhi. And this is a striking example of such a risk which adversely impacts the medical continuity of business and which completely cripples the patient. And to add more understanding and nuances of these threats and how we as hospital administrators can boost the cyber security in our ecosystem, it's my proud privilege to introduce to you an expert. There is a saying in Sanskrit, Vidvat Janena Gataha Sapanthaha. Vidvats are the expert, Vidvat Janena Gataha. The path taken by the expert or shown by the experts is the right path. And here we have with us the computer and decision scientist. He holds the position of research assistant professor in the Sloan School of Management at the prestigious MIT, and that is Dr. Ranjan Pal. Dr. Ranjan Pal, a very, very warm welcome to you. It's our proud privilege to have you on board today.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Ranjan is also the recently elected member of the World Economic Forum Working Group, especially on over 70 research articles in premier academic as well as media houses and 40 invited lectures across the globe. Simply put, a lot of Dr. Ranjan's cyber risk management research can be viewed as the Wall Street stuff in today's cyber world. So with that, I would request Dr. Ranjan Pal to take over the session, please, and help us understand what we as hospital administrators can do to boost cybersecurity. Over to you, Dr. Ranjan Pal.
Thanks, Major Guruprasad. Thanks to you. Thanks to Dr. President of AHA India and last but not the least, Mahesh, who actually who got it started. So it all started with a Forbes article, which I don't have it here, but I'm pretty sure Mahesh can share it with the audience, once the talk, finishes up, and so that they can read that Forbes article. So it all started there, and he got interested. He contacted me, and then I was very happy to present because we hardly ever get a chance to talk to medical people, especially doctors and staff. So this was a golden opportunity for us. I would also like to introduce my colleague, Professor Bodhibroto Nag, with whom I wrote this article. He's in the audience. He's a professor in operations management in the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. And he has approximately 40 years of experience in both academics and the industry. So it would be I thought it would be great to have him in the audience as well, which he's here. And having said that, I would like to just start my presentation. So could you so the presentation it's as Major Guruprasad said, it's how can hospital administrations boost cybersecurity. And when I say hospital administrations, of course, it is targeted towards the Indian hospitals, but the message is pretty general because the problem is pervasive around the globe. It's not just in India, but we'll see some interesting insights as we go ahead in the talk. Could we have the next slide, please? The next, yes. So the talk will be structured in four. Yeah, so I'll just spend some time on this slide. So the talk will be structured in 4 parts. In the first part, I will be discussing the major medical cyber breaches around the globe. This is just to give context to my message. Like, why is this important? Like, why are we even discussing this today? And the motivation lies in several breach examples around the globe. Next, we will look at the tech policy issues for hospital administrators, which prevent hospitals from being secure as we would like them to. And it's not just about tech policy issues. There are management issues as well, which we'll also look into for the same problem. And finally, we'll conclude the talk with some action items, which is probably most important and what you guys might be looking for. to boost hospital cybersecurity in India. Okay, so may I have the next slide, please? Okay, so the next one. Yeah. So as we all know, I think this was the context of the talk, that I guess sometime in November last year, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, the premier institute, the medical institute in our country, was attacked with a ransomware. Ransomware attack where the hackers demanded approximately rupees 200 crores in crypto. Okay. Now, the incident caused so much furor that one of the national media channels claimed that AIIMS cyber attack should be treated as a terror attack. And this is something which is really important, because in the past there have been attacks on Indian infrastructure, but nothing got as much attention as this, and that too, like considering it as a terror attack. So could we have the next bullet, which is the I think there is something after this. So the next one, yes. So what happened was the All Indian Institute of Medical Science was charged a ransom. They did not pay the ransom, and we will get there that whether it's good to pay the ransom or not to pay the ransom. But at this point of time, they did not pay the ransom, and the hackers released data on the dark web. Okay, and however, to the benefit of everyone, the medical data was restored, and the restored data was approximately around 1.3 terabytes, and the restoration costs approximately ranged up to about $1 million US. Okay, so this is the case study on which this talk is based. But I will not just stick to this case study in India. I mean, this is the starting point. I would like to give more insights on case studies around the world in the last 10 years. So could we have the next slide, please? Yeah. So the attack on medical hospitals or medical organizations is not new. Probably this was new for India. But then in the US, things have been going on for a while. I mean, in 2013, approximately around 2013 to 2015, Ronald Reagan Medical Center at UCLA, which is one of the premier hospitals in the world, they also had a data breach attack. This was not ransomware. This was basic malware. But then the breach cost to UCLA was approximately around USD 7.5 million. However, the more important thing is the number of customers affected were 4.5 million. That's the worrying part, because you're affecting lives at that point of time in some way or the other. Okay. Now, it's not only about medical centers. Anthem, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield, if I guess many of you might know, they are a premier insurance provider, health insurance provider in the US, right? So they also had a data breach. And could we have the data for this data breach, please? As the next slide. Yes. So the breach cost to Anthem was approximately $115 million, which is huge. And this also occurred, I think, around 2017. I'm not very sure, I don't remember the dates, but approximately in the range of 2015 to 2017. And the breach cost to Anthem was US dollars 115 million. And the number of customers affected, whopping, 78.8 million customers were affected with this particular data breach. Now, one might ask here that what do you exactly mean by a data breach? Well, the data breach is anything to do with patient data and staff data. So, you have records, and the records have multiple attributes, and all these attributes get leaked, and that's what we call a data breach. So there is an immense amount of data floating around in the hacking space that, this is data from this customer, and, so on and so forth. And mind you, these customers could be very important persons. For example, in the All Institute of Medical Sciences, like politicians, celebrities, they all get treatments. And the data is actually there in the servers. So what the hackers are actually getting into is, apart from data for normal people like you and me, they're getting access to data of celebrities, and that to medical data. Okay, so this is a glaring example of a data breach happening in the US in the last 10 years, or two data breaches or major data breaches in the last 10 years. And could we have the next slide, please? And the problem is only not restricted to like US. It's in Europe as well. It's pervasive. So that's the worrying part. So one of the examples which became really, news catching was this medical, a ransomware attack on a hospital in Dusseldorf in Germany, where 30 servers inside the hospital were held to ransom. And the most worrying thing is that one of the patients died during hospital transfer because you couldn't actually conduct services in that hospital. So that patient had to be transferred from hospital A to hospital B to be, given treatment, because nothing in hospital A, which is the Dusseldorf hospital, was working. Everything was under ransom, right? So during that transfer, a patient died, and that became big news. Okay. And similarly, I guess another event that caused a lot of, media attention was the WannaCry ransomware, which you guys might have heard about. And WannaCry affected many sectors. One of the sectors was medicine. And this was in the UK, where NHS, their premier body, there was a data breach attack which costed approximately British pound 92 million. And not only that, NHS controls several other trusts, and all the trusts' data were under ransom. So 80 trusts and approximately 600 GP surgeries were impacted during that time. So by these examples, all I'm trying to convey here is that hospitals all around the world are under threat. It's not just India. India is a new player, and I will get to the next slide where I will say why is India a new player. But the thing you want to know here is that it's a pervasive problem. And the problem is that it creates a lot of impact in terms of the costs which hospitals need to pay, and also in terms of the lifestyle or the life impacting, life impacting things which happens to the patients. And that is actually the thing which should be stopped. And hence we are discussing this topic, right? Now, what can we really take away from these examples in the Indian context? Because we are actually speaking to Indian medical staff here in this talk. So the first thing you have to realize is there is an increased digital footprint, and by digital I mean Internet of Things. I'm assuming everybody here knows Internet of Things, but if not, I'll stop for a while after this slide to take questions for this part. But so there is an increased digital footprint in any industry. It's not that medical industry. Even if you go to the power grid, that's the electric power grid. If you go to the manufacturing space, every space is getting increasingly digital. Now, if you're getting increasingly digital, you're increasing your network space as well, because you need to communicate across a network, a wireless network, for example. And you're actually increasing the vulnerability, the cyber vulnerability of that space. Your terrain or cyber terrain increases, and the vulnerability also increases. So that is something which we must take into account when you come to the Indian context, because hospitals are getting more digital. Now, we just saw COVID happen, and what COVID did was it allowed us to work from home. Now, when you're working from home, you realize that you are actually logging into systems from far away, and you are using the network instead of using the internal network of the hospital. For example, if you take AIIMS must be having, I've never been inside AIIMS, but it must be having an internal network on which you actually access devices or the internet within that network. But when you're outside, you're accessing things from home, and you're not really sure whether the network is secure, and so on and so forth. So you're actually increasing your threat probabilities there as well. Now, the third reason looks very striking to me. That is my analysis of what's going on. Is India is a rapidly growing economy, right? And it's now becoming the envy of nation states. Like, for example, we had America 10 years ago, or even prior to that, and then Europe. I mean, they were always under the attack of hackers in China, or say maybe Russia, for example, right? But now India is rapidly growing, and people want to target India because it's a good market to target, right? So this is something which I guess, like the medical hospitals, and they should really be, considering that. Why are we being targeted now? Why wouldn't be targeted maybe 6 years back or 7 years back? So this is something which I believe is the new dimension by India is getting attacked. So there's one more point on this slide. Could I have that? I think there are two more points. Yeah. Now, as I just said, that hackers who attack these major organizations like institutes of importance like AIIMS, They want VIP medical data. Okay, that is one thing, because that's probably one of the places where these guys go, and then you could really, get access to the data if you hack them, right? But look at it in a bigger way. India has a large population. There is societal genetics, and when you get access to this genetic information, you're actually opening up the pharmaceutical space to develop vaccines for the positive or the negative, or even medicines for the positive or the negative, right? So this is something which is extremely lucrative data for the hackers, given the large population India has. Okay, so these are the four basic reasons, or the takeaways, I would say, why the AIMS attack might have happened. And you have to take all these four reasons together. You cannot just say, okay, the digital footprint increases. Well, it increases for many other sectors, not only the medical sector. You can't even say the work from home as an independent reason, because there are many people working from home in many other sectors. But if you combine all the four reasons I mentioned here, you will really see why the medical sector in specific should be worried about in terms of having their infrastructure, or having their data being exposed to the hackers in other countries, right? So I have one more point on this slide. Could I have that? Yes. And this is something you should always remember. I mean, this is invariant over time. It's invariant over space, which is the hackers are always ahead than the best cybersecurity practices. You have to assume this, and it's not really an assumption, it's the truth, that the hackers are spending 24/7 designing techniques to hack into your system. Whereas the IT professionals who secure your system, they're not working 24/7, right? They have a job to do, they have a family to support, they have other things to do. So you can never catch up with these hackers with respect to the resources they have, and that is respect to money and time, that is, and also in their knowledge about hacking systems. They're far better than what we are in terms of protecting our system. So you have to understand that the bad guys are always ahead, right? And then try to make inroads about your about management strategies within your organization. So this was the first part of my talk. I just want to take a small 2-minute break to allow questions if there are any at this point.
Dr. Ranjan?
Yeah.
Ranjan, I have a question. I am intrigued. How did you arrive to this figure of $1 million to restore AIMS data? How is it the AIMS has told this figure, or how did you arrive to that figure?
Oh, I arrived at the figure from a source on the internet, like a newspaper source. I actually probably should have given the source, but I did not. But yes, I was myself surprised that it's $1.1 million. I just took it from one of the premier newspapers. I will give you the source by the end of the talk. But they said that it's approximately around $1.1 million to recover everything. It could also be. Maybe they have third-party liabilities towards certain, parties which they serve. And if you take everything into account, it could be $1.1 million. It's not necessarily only the amount to recover data. That probably would be a bit high. But the first and third-party, impact, which you might, take into account in this case.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So any other quick question on the context and some case studies and takeaways for this part of the talk? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you, but it's
Dr. Pragya this side from CGI Lucknow.
Dr.
I'm audible.
Dr. Pragya, you are not audible. Can you just come closer to your microphone?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Pragya, I can hear you. It's a bit faint, so
hello, sir. Sir, my
yeah, go on.
yes, sir, my doubt will be on. I just all the objectives which you have shared, the work from home and the IoT thing. Sir, what I know you're sharing about the telemedicine, sir. Is this also a part for?
Yeah, absolutely.
So telemedicine. Regarding the telemedicine, I wanted your views, sir.
Yes. So Pragya, so the thing is, telemedicine definitely is there, but the overall principle which you have to get, and I hope I can convince you and others as well, that wherever there is a network, for example, you're transmitting things over an internet or a wireless network, which you are all familiar with because we all have wireless networks at our homes. And wherever there is digital infrastructure, and both are interrelated because you're accessing the digital infrastructure through the network, correct? So all I'm trying to say is that wherever there is the presence of a network and the presence of digital infrastructure which you can access through that network, there are issues. That's all I'm trying to say. And if you keep this in mind, you will realize that everything is under threat. Because if you are accessing things from outside the network, which is secure, and this is under the best assumption that your hospital has a secure network. That should not actually be the case because it is not. But even if I assume that, hospital is the best in the world with respect to, securing the internal network, whenever you're going to work from home, you're not accessing the network anymore. Yes, probably you can use VPN. I'm not sure what the practices are inside hospitals where the doctors or the staff there, they must access a VPN, but we'll get into those. But the bottom line is most places around the world do not have this infrastructure. And we are in the deep internet age. So that is the worrying part. So telemedicine, of course, anything to do with tele, you could say that fine, it has a presence. So does this answer your question, Pragya?
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Good
So,
evening. Good evening. It is Dr. Farooq here, Medical Super
yes.
Skims. I have a point to make. While we are talking about cybersecurity, the hospital administrators are at the mercy of IT specialists because
Okay.
they can't themselves conceive how to have this firewalls and how to have the protective mechanisms. So
Yeah.
ultimately, what administrators can do, as if they are at the top, they can take due care in selection of appropriate IT personnel who can develop these things for them. That is absolutely in our hands.
Okay, so we will get there, Dr. Farooq. We'll get there in the subsequent parts of the talk. This is a very valid question, and I hope that
Thank you.
we'll get answers to this question by the time I get a bit deeper. But then you're of course welcome to ask then as well.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will go to the Mahesh. Yeah.
Can we take all the questions at the end of your talk? Would that be okay?
That's perfect. I think that's better. So let me just go ahead and finish my talk. It's not a big talk anyway, so we can have a lot of discussion after the talk. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So let's go to the next part of the talk, the next slide. So the next slide, in this part, I will be talking of the tech policy issues which plague hospital management throughout India and across the globe. And so the next slide. Okay. So you could list out all the points, but given that you're actually helping me out in a big way, I will try to make headway into each of these points separately. So you see, there are a lot of tech policy barriers. Those are the first things which we need to look into at a very broad level, which can actually be a challenge to improve hospital cybersecurity in India. Okay. Now, the first thing, and when I speak about this, I'm not talking of AIIMS specifically. I'm talking of general hospitals like all around India, that there's a lack of policy on medical databases. Okay. Now, you understand that, even before the internet came in, there was a proper presence of the internet within hospitals. There were databases because people, patients, millions of patients over the years, and then you collect that data and put it into a database, which is infrastructure, right? However, there doesn't exist in general any specific policy, a tech policy, where you could say, okay, this is how I maintain a database. Okay. For example, who can access the data? That's number one. Where can they access the data? They cannot access the data if they are having a party somewhere. They should not be able to access the data from there, right? Or who is accessible? I mean, for example, who can you give access to the data? You cannot give access to the data to everyone in the hospital, right? You must have certain, special people who would have access, for example, doctors and, some specific, special staff. And that even is patient centric. Every patient cannot have access to a uniform number of, people having access to their data. So these policies are not there, or has not been there in the past. In the past, it didn't matter because people didn't attack your system, so you never cared. But this is really very important that you should know who to give access to, when to give access to, and where to give access to. This is the first thing you have to remember. And that in itself controls the security. Okay. Now, for example, if there is a major outage, let's take the AIMS attack. If you were under ransom, then for certain days things were not working. Now, did you have a backup? Do you have a backup data somewhere in the cloud? Or do you have access to the major cloud services who will say, okay, hey, don't worry about it, we have it covered? There's a service called Code 42. I don't know whether many of you know it, because in the US it's pretty popular. So Code 42 backs up everything in real time. So I'm speaking now, and if I'm doing something, then MIT has Code 42, which will back up everything what I'm doing. So I'm talking of a similar backup system which should be there, and there are third-party services which you can avail of, and they will provide you with this backup system. That's from the maintenance viewpoint. But if you leave that, you have to also take into account things like who to share data, where to share data, when to share data. Those policies should be laid out in stone, that this is how it will work. That's number one. Okay. Secondly, I guess there's a lack of policies on the best use of IoT devices. Now, Pragya, she recently mentioned about telemedicine. On that note, I'm assuming that there are lots of devices in the medical world today which are small in size. They are run with software and hardware, and they are operable over the internet. Okay. Now, I'll tell you a basic problem with such devices. An example is a pacemaker. I mean, again, you have to pardon my ignorance about how medical devices are in the US versus there in India. I'm pretty sure India is extremely advanced in this, but I have to apologize that I don't know much about medicine. But I'll say that, things like pacemakers, which in the US have, a lot of internet presence with respect to, smart pacemakers, we call them. So there are legacy protocols and legacy, so there's a specific hardware on which these devices are made. There are specific software on which these devices are run. Okay. Now, nobody knows, or nobody has put a thought to it that how to make them more secure. All they want is the pacemaker should work. Okay. But they forgot to, put in logic that, how to make it secure. What if somebody, from 1,000 miles away can control the battery in the pacemaker? And there have been attacks like that. I think Mahesh would be familiar with St. Jude's Children's Hospital in the US. They had a scare effect where somebody's battery inside the pacemaker was drained by a hacker, and the pacemaker stopped for a while because it was controlling the battery power, which controls the workings of the pacemaker. And this should not happen, right? Because when you design a pacemaker, you should realize that there are people who can hack into it, but that design was not there in practice in the generic sense. So that's number one. Secondly, there are no proper security, protocols for these legacy softwares and legacy hardwares. So it makes life easy for the hacker to just hack into. And the hacker doesn't have moral conscience that the hacker will say, oh, a patient will die. He doesn't care, or she doesn't care. So this is something that needs to get into generic, devices manufacturing in the country. So whoever it is who manufactures devices, or whichever companies manufactures medical devices, they need to have a security presence. So when you buy products from them, you have to ask questions that, what's your security policy within this product? How do we know that, this will not happen, that will not happen, and things like that. So those questions need to be asked. That's number one. Secondly, there is this National Informatics Center in India, which you guys are all familiar with. So the infrastructure within AIMS, was actually set up. The IT infrastructure was set up in accordance with the NIC collaboration. And there were no effective service level agreements between AIMS and NIC. So for example, if something goes wrong at AIMS, you cannot hold NIC liable because you did not sign a service level agreement that if such a bad event happens, then who is going to be liable? NIC is going to be liable, right? And nothing like that happened, right? So this is where, these centers like NIC who are setting our infrastructures, they should be educated about security, number one. People from AIMS or any other hospital should be educated about security who are collaborating with NIC. And when a dialogue happens or when a contract is signed or something, these questions need to be addressed slowly, steadily from now on after these events have happened. Okay. Could I go to the next slide? The next point. There's yes, and more importantly, this is very, very applicable to the medical sector. There are no technical metrics to monitor the quality of cybersecurity. Now, what do I mean by that? So if I ask any one of you, how do you measure cybersecurity? It's a very difficult question. How would I know how to measure cybersecurity? Now, you could say, hey, the AIMS attack happens once in 15 years. Well, if I know there was another attack recently, but that was subverted, that's what information I have. But the fact is, say it happens once in 2 years, something like that. That's not a metric, right? I mean, what can I do if it happens once in 2 years? But there are better metrics which can allow you to say that whether you are doing good as a hospital. For example, I'm not sure how many of you know what a phishing attack is, but I am pretty sure all of you know that, you get emails like, I'm a Nigerian prince, I need so much money, so on and so forth in your spam mails, right? Or you get some malicious link, you click on it, maybe it's very attractive, that link, and you click on it, and then you go to a bad website, and that website is, trying to do things which you cannot see. So these are phishing attacks. Now, inside your organization, you can have measures to count that how many phishing attacks in the last 1 week. How many of your staff, employees have, clicked on a phishing link. And if you get this data, right, it'll be very useful to know from the medical administration viewpoint that, are people really being fooled to clicking on a link or things like that. And on top of this, if you have a critical infrastructure, because AIMS is definitely a critical infrastructure, any medical institute is a critical infrastructure. So when you have a critical infrastructure, the IT team inside the infrastructure, they're supposed to collect alarms. For example, if something is happening which is not normal, it's supposed to be an alarm, right? So how many such alarms are raised in a period of 1 week, or how many such alarms are raised in a period of 1 month? These are your real-time cybersecurity metrics, which any IT of the cybersecurity, any IT of the medical institution should be collecting, because that gives you a hint that whether your staff members, doctors, and other, patients, etc., they are doing something which is, which is supposed to raise an alarm, and only then can you move forward. I see Khushbu has raised a hand. So Mahesh, do we take this question, or do you want me to postpone it till the end?
We can take it at the end. The moderator will moderate all those who raise the hands and then give them the opportunity to ask the question.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Mahesh. So could we have the next point on this slide? I guess there may be one more point on. Oh, no, okay, that's fine. So these were your tech policy, barriers, which I said that hospitals are going through now, which they have to make some progress steadily. Of course, you cannot change the world in one day. I mean, as I say, Rome was not built in a day. So you have to make steady progress, but there has to be the seriousness amongst the, the tech policy forming teams. Now, it could be the IT team, but as Farooq said a few moments ago, that it's always a dialogue between the IT team and the nearest admin, over the IT team. So whoever that is, they need to start having this dialogue with all the devices they have, with all the systems they have, with all the processes they have. Are you really, are we doing the right things, or are we on the path of doing the right things? This is something which, is the first, one of the major learnings which we can get. Now I will get into the topic of the management issues. This will be more glaring, you will see, because in the end, everything is about the management. They are the big people. They are the people who control things inside an organization. So we will look at, issues from their angle as well. So could we have the next slide? Okay, so I'll start with these few points, and then we can go to the next few points on this slide. So first of all, we believe, and this is throughout the world, and I don't see any reason why India should be exempted, because India is not. is there's a lack of culture in hospitals. Okay, there's a lack of cybersecurity culture in the sense, in the US, that is, and I'm pretty sure some of you might be able to, come in here and give your opinions. There is hardly a workshop on security for doctors and staff. I mean, it's unheard of. Now, we are not complaining. I'll tell you why, because at least 7 to 8 years ago, doctors were not supposed to think of technology in the sense they should be, that I should take a technology course inside AIMS, or I should take a technology course inside PGI Chandigarh, for example, right? So there's a lack of culture, whether, there are workshops to know that, hey, do you know how secure you are? You are controlling this network, you're on this device, you're taking data from this server. Do you really know how to take data from this server? Who to share with, when to share. These workshops don't get held, not only in India, but anywhere in the world. Okay, that is a major issue, because then nobody understands the value of security. Everybody thinks, oh, it's some little thing which we don't need to care about. And even if we have to care about, we'll care about when an event happens. We don't need to use our mind now, because we are doctors. So our goal is to save patients, and our goal is to know medicine well. Why should we worry about something which, IT people or computer scientists, for example, should be worried about? So this is the lack of culture, which has led to this downfall, and which has given a, like a very, very smooth path to hackers to come and attack hospitals, because they know that these guys are not educated in computer technology. They hardly know security. So it's easy, right? And the impact is very high. It's easy, but the impact is high. Now, a similar problem, as I just said, that the medical staff are, they're not educated about cybersecurity, right? Which is directly falling from the culture, because if the culture is not there, then you will not have people who actually take these practices, right? So that's a major problem. And things like, whether you have backups, it's extremely simple. Number one. Number two is passwords, right? So how many people here, I wish I could have taken a poll, but I guess we'll have a different way to, get answers to this. How many people have knife passwords, like passwords which are extremely simple to remember, and, you have same password in multiple, multiple applications you use. So these are things which are, like sin. You can't do this. You feel that you are safe, but you're not, because somebody is looking at you. They can easily get passwords. And if you look at your Mac, I think same on Windows as well. Sometimes there are applications which tell you that which of your passwords have been leaked. There are applications like that. So you should actually be resolving those applications also, that, which of my passwords have been leaked or, given to someone else. And you should be able to change those passwords over time. Like every 6 weeks or every 6 months, you should be able to change your passwords. That's number one. Then backups. The other funny thing, which is not funny actually, but funny in the sense of security, is in the hospital scenario, everybody is very busy. Whenever I go to a hospital, I see people running around from here and there, because it's urgent, right? Even people want to save lives. But what if you're trying to do something important on the computer, and then you just leave your computer open and then you go? Maybe some emergency has happened and then you just leave your desktop. Somebody can, change things inside the desktop. There could be insider threats. In the US, we say the major cause of cyber attacks is insider threats. There are people inside the organization who are enemies, who want to sabotage, several aspects of, of management, right? So these are very, very small, funny looking issues, but the impact could be big. You just need to be aware that, when I go to another patient room, did I log off? Things like that, simple things. But it goes out of our mind. I'm not blaming you guys. It's happening everywhere. I'm just saying that these are the causes which actually lead to hackers, trying to get inside the system. This is the major problem, lack of investment. So if you're talking to the directors of AIMS, or in the end, you have to convince them, because they're going to give you the, the green signal that, hey, go ahead, IT team of AIMS, go ahead and, invest so many crores of rupees in infrastructure, right? And that doesn't happen. It's probably because these big people, they do not realize the importance of security. They are not knowledgeable about security, but we can't blame them. They're doctors of the highest caliber, And they might say, look, my job is to, like save patients and, be knowledgeable about medicine, not knowledgeable about IT. But you should actually be, by these, through these events, you should be able to, like get security more seriously in your mind, and then put in money so that the IT team and the administration can, use that money to, for better use. And better use means to have better security processes and promote culture inside the organization, right? Could I have the next few points on the slide? Okay. So as I said, there are multiple, in any organization, not only the medical organizations, there are multiple strata. So you start with the lowest level of management, then you have the middle management, and then you have the upper management, and then you have the board, right? So there is no communication transparency between all these layers. That's one big problem, because if you cannot communicate the problem or the seriousness of the problem across all these layers equally, then you're not going to solve the problem, because somewhere down the line it's gonna stop. Somebody is saying that, hey, look, I don't have time for these issues, please handle it yourselves, but people who want to handle it, they don't have the resources to handle it. So the problem dies down. I mean, the impact dies down, in the minds of people. So this lack of communication should actually be resolved. How can we get the director? I mean, I'm just using the term director. I'm not sure if the director is responsible for this, but what I'm saying is, how can we get the director to be equally thoughtful about cybersecurity in the wake of AIMS events or other events, like a lower level management person? It should be, we communicate with our brains and we are parallel in thought, at least with respect to cybersecurity. Then things become simple. It's a hard problem. It happens in many business sectors. Medicine is not the only one. So these are issues which you need to resolve, like in the sense, at least get some solution. That's one thing. The metrics do not get translated to the KPIs. KPIs here means key performance indicators. So, well, AIMS is non-profit. Well, surely non-profit. It's a government whatever. But can I really say that AIMS doesn't care about profit? I don't know. It's something which I don't have to think of. But look at private hospitals. Private hospitals are surely for profit. I don't care if they say they're non-profit by some mechanism, but they're here for money. Everybody's here for making profit. So the board of that hospital might be thinking, what's our revenue for this term, or what's our revenue for the for whatever. And cybersecurity doesn't figure there, right? Because who cares, when an attack happened, I guess, you must have fixed that attack. So all these attacks and the different management layers which I talked about, they have to talk that. So I'll give you a simple example to make it clear. Say you're talking to an IT manager today. So there are two things the manager can say: that the server was down for 2 days. That's easy, because that's what everyone understands. Or there were so many sensors, like if you have sensors around the hospital, these sensors were not working due to a cyber problem. That's the technologist's view of a system. If you ask me, I'm a computer scientist, I'll say, hey, how many hours was the server down? But then how many hours translates to how many $1 million, or how many hours translates to how many crores of rupees? That metric should be there. That one-to-one mapping should be there, because the board will understand the crores of rupees. The board doesn't understand how many hours the server was down, what happened to the server, what happened to the sensor. That's not the board's problem. That's IT problem. But IT should be able to say, hey, boss, this is what has happened. It's going to cost you, like 50 crore rupees to, resolve this problem over the next, whatever, the time window, right? Then the board becomes serious. Oh, it's a matter of 50 crores. It's not a small amount, right? So, okay, we'll do something. Let's have a discussion. And that's how we get the ball rolling. So these are missing in the current scenario in India as well as abroad. It's the same problem. So this is somewhere where India doesn't have to say, oh, we are behind. They're not behind. They are at par. But it could be a disaster in India because the population is very high. I've talked about this before. So it'll spread like wildfire once it starts. With the Chinese and specifically Chinese. I don't know about Russia at this point of time, but China for sure. Right. So do I have any other point on this slide? I don't remember. Probably not. Oh, there is one. Yeah, this is super interesting. This is coming from behavioral economics, and we all face this. Everybody believes we are secure. If you ask me, Even I'll say, oh, I'm secure. I'm using the best softwares. I'm using the best practices. If you talk to a doctor, the doctor will say, oh, I'm secure. I'm using antivirus, etc., etc. So people have a tendency to underestimate cyber risk. And this is a behavioral problem, right? So this is something which you need to get over these biases. You always need to start assuming that we may not be secure. You don't have to be paranoid. We are not saying that you be paranoid and you're always thinking, hey, when's the next attack happening? No, it's not that. But it's more like, let me give some more respect to hackers. Let's put it that way. The hackers are smart. They spend 24/7 doing the same thing. That's a better way to look at it. I have other things to do in life. So I just can't match up with the hacker, right? So just assume that, they're after me in some way or the other. I'll do my best. So that's the behavioral side of things, which often gets ignored because people think, we are smart enough. And even though I don't want to, demean anyone out here, I mean, I'm also included in the same thing. It's more like, let's give more respect to the hackers. They are much smarter than us. Okay, so I'm with this slide, so I'll probably go to the next part of the talk, which is the last part of the talk. And I guess by now you guys should have anyway understood what are the things you need to do, but I will specifically point out a few action items which you can start right away. So could I have the next slide, please? And this is for the management. I don't have one point here. I added the last minute before this talk, but I'll mention it separately. So the first thing is you need to establish the minimum cyber hygiene practices. We are not telling you to, set the board on fire and say, change everything. No, you can't do it that way. You have to take small steps. And the small steps means you need to have minimum cyber hygiene practices for converged IT/OT settings. Now, I know many of you know IT. I'm not sure many of you here know the term OT. OT means operational technology. And what do I mean by operational technology? Any sensor device or any mechanical device which has access to the internet. So for example, you might have a special medical device like a pacemaker or maybe other bigger devices which can be connected to the internet, and data can be transmitted to and fro between parties. That becomes an operational technology, right? It's primarily hardware for a purpose, but it has some sensors or it's accessible from the internet. So that's what I mean by OT. So in these days, the IT/OT space is very blurred in the sense it's pervasive, it's uniform, and security can actually be very tough there. So you just need to adopt basic cyber hygiene practices. Now you can ask me who will do this. Well, you have to invest in IT infrastructure. You have to invest in what you call, and I'll come to this point later anyway, but I'm trying to mention it now, that the IT team will do this. And the IT team, by this, I mean people who are scientists in the computer science, like IT specialists, who are security specialists. You have to look for security specialists who would, come and, form these policies in discussion with the administrator, the IT administrator, for example, right? So this is something which needs to be established. Insecure medical devices. As I said, the special devices like sensors or any other device, they have special hardware, they have special software. Okay. Now, there should be a dedicated, I would say, a company. It's not the medical company will not do this, of course, the manufacturer will do this. So you have to be in discussion with the manufacturer that, do you have protocols or do you have methods to update the software time and again? So the simple example is Windows or Mac OS. We all use computers. The operating system gets updated every, I don't know, every few days maybe, right? So similar updates need to happen for devices. It doesn't happen. Sometimes, the same software is running for the last 20 years. And the best example I can give you is cars. Cars in the US, like certain softwares, you can't use them anymore. There are regulations which say that if your car is, manufactured before a certain year, you cannot take it out in the market, on the roads, or even if you do take it out, you cannot use that particular thing with that software because the software is expired. Nobody manufactures updates for the software anymore. right? So these are things which needs to be done with the devices you use in your medical setting as well. There is this concept of software bill of materials. This is what AIMS or PGI would do. So take an inventory of all the medical devices you have in your hospital and what are the software elements inside that device. If there is no software element, it's fine because it then doesn't become hackable, right? At least by software or the internet in that sense. So take a count, take an inventory, say what are the different software components are there, and make a table out of it. So recently, the United States has passed a law, the United States government, that every company should have a software bill of materials, which is know what your every company in the critical infrastructure. In the critical infrastructure, right? So they should have a software bill of materials which says these are the different devices in our company. These are the different softwares which go with the devices, and what is the make of that software? Is it like the recent update? Or is it like, when did you last update it and things like that? Everything needs to be documented. And this holds for medicine, especially with all the employees and, whatever they are going through, like whatever they use, and doctors as a matter of fact. So that needs to be done. As I said, the directors of the board or the C-suite, as we call it, they should be allocating sufficient funds. Security is a big problem. It can start with a small thing, but it'll grow big. It'll impact many other sectors, including your economic performance. So you should have sufficient budget, allocated to boost healthcare cybersecurity. So you can take small steps at a time, right? And one more important thing is, I don't know whether there's a body of hospitals. I'm pretty sure there are. So one particular hospital should report bad things which has happened to other hospitals. Now, this is a tricky space. This is an open problem, even in the economic sense. We are trying to, like MIT, as many other schools are trying to work on this. Hospitals are competitors. If something happens to Apollo, for example, some bad event, which is not public as of yet, Apollo has no incentive to share it with, say, Fortis. Fortis is another, body. Why would they do it? Because it means that you're trying to get attention, and Fortis will make a marketing news of it. Look, Apollo got hacked, but they don't know they will get hacked the next time. So nobody tries to share bad information on security between hospitals. That needs to be done because you're helping society in the long run. You have to give up your competitive interest there and say, hey, today we got hacked because the attack is a ransomware attack of this type. Did you get attacked like this as well? If you did not, let me share information with you because it could help you. Because next time they will get attacked, they'll share it with you. So this culture is difficult because we are humans after all. We don't want to, we think short term, we don't think long term. So these are behavioral problems which are deep grained inside our psyche, and it takes a long time to solve. People have not solved it in the US as of now. I'm just saying this is a problem which we should be targeting, but it's a tougher problem than the ones above. The ones above are, easily solvable. There is one more point which I did not make. I mean, I don't know why I didn't make it. It's my entire, that's what I specialize in, which is insurance. You have to get insurance, cyber insurance, that is. Like for anything which happens, you need to be able to, I think Bajaj Alliance is one company I know in India, which has heavily invested in insurance of the cyberspace. So you could have contracts with insurance companies that, if something bad happens, then you're going to take over. You're going to manage my risk for me, right? And that needs to be done first up. I don't know whether something happened in the AIMS case. I have no idea, like who resolved it or whether they went to an insurance company. That's a typical tricky space. But all I'm saying is that you cannot do without insurance. I mean, look at it this way. It's a risk. You have life insurance, you have health insurance, you have car insurance. Why will you not have cyber insurance for medical? I mean, I don't see a reason why you would not. So that is the last point which I did not put in. It was in my recent slide, but I couldn't share the slide. So sorry about that. So this is what it is, guys. Simple things. I didn't get into deeper aspects of technology because that's not what this audience is. It's not the audience for that. But I'm just trying to tell you, what are the issues, the simple issues we see in our front of our eyes, but we don't care about it. So, and these were the, the so-called 5 or 6 action items I would say you can start right away, including insurance, which is not there. So that was my talk. So Mahesh, I'm done with this. So I would like to take any questions at this point of time. Yeah, of course. Last slide. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Dr. Ranjan, for this absolutely brilliant and very, very insightful session. You have given us some fantastic takeaways, having given us a very basic understanding of what is a data breach, what is a cyber breach, and thereafter, how it is that when we have this Internet of Things, the number of cyber threats increases, and India being a rapidly growing economy, it's more like, the Onida tagline, neighbors envy and owners pride. So,
Exactly.
yeah, there is a lot of envy, and we need to be very, very cognizant of that. And most importantly, the societal genetics data that you mentioned about, wherein public figures and celebrities and any person for that matter, right? The genetics data can really play a huge role in terms of the use in pharmaceuticals, and the tech policy barriers that you mentioned, which need to be improved, and also the lack of cybersecurity culture that we definitely have. We very easily share passwords, and you mentioned about the insider threats that kick in when we very casually just leave our laptops open, and it's open for anybody to just jump in and create very, very big problems of great magnitude.
Mhm.
And of course, the lack of the C-suite people, the board members, and their buy-in in terms of
Mhm.
the cybersecurity threats. And of course, all the corrective and preventive actions that you mentioned in terms of uh, the cyber security hygiene practices, the software bill of materials, strengthening the information sharing amongst the hospitals, being altruistic about it, being open about it, despite being competitors, the budgets, the lack of budget allocation, and finally the point on cyber insurance. So I think it was very, very insightful, and we are immensely, immensely thankful to you for sharing these insights with us. So with that, we open the forum for questions. So we will take up the first question. I think Kushbu had a question. Kushbu, would you like to go ahead, please?
Yeah, sir. First of all, good evening to all. So my question was like when sir told about the phishing mail we get, like
Mhm.
how as a administrator or as a part of the healthcare, how we will know that that phishing mail, whatever we got, that is really a phishing mail or what? Like
Okay. So,
how we can check?
okay. Before I answer this, Khushbu, just one quick question. Are you a doctor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you see, Khushbu, for a doctor, it becomes difficult simply because we are computer scientists. We know what a phishing mail looks like even before opening the mail, right? Now the question is that cannot be said of a doctor. It will be unfair to ask that of a doctor. So I can really understand what you're saying. So this is where the culture impact comes in. So you should be having workshops inside your hospital, say periodic workshops where people will be invited from the computer industry, and they will be said, this is what a phishing mail looks like. Do you have you ever got that? Now that you will remember because you see emails, you would remember, okay, someone wrote to me like this, and this is how you will know. That's the only answer I can give you now. There is no other shortcut, because without that, I can't expect you, hey, Khushbu, go and read this on the internet. Even if I tell you, you will not do it because you don't have time. You have other things to do. So take the workshop seriously. And of course, that means you should have workshops in the first place. But the not so good news, Khushbu, is this phishing thing is extremely common and it's extremely sophisticated. There is a concept called spear phishing. Spear phishing means I will impersonate the director of the institution. So I will be inside the system. I know what emails he or she is sending. I will keep a record of that. That's machine learning for you. And then I will impersonate that person that, tomorrow, say yesterday you were at dinner with someone, some dignitary. And I will call you, hey, it was nice having dinner with you, because of course you had dinner with me. It's just that I'm not that person, I'm someone else. Right? So, I want you to make sure you tell your finance officer to transfer so much lakhs or crores of rupees for this new device, which you want to buy for your hospital. So the money will go to another person, will not go to the manufacturer. So this is called spear phishing. It means targeted phishing. And Khushbu, there is no way you should be worried about it yourself, because it's the duty of your hospital administration to have workshops. And the only thing which you should be doing is take these workshops seriously. That's it. That's your only job. So this is how you would be, better knowledgeable about phishing. Okay.
Okay, sir.
We have the next question from Dr. Farooq Jan.
Good evening. Yes, it was a nice talk. It was nice listening to Mr. Ranjan. I think the shortcut to this is to talk and talk, have more and more CMEs. And not only, you don't have to only target the doctors. You have to target the medical record technician who is working at the medical records. You have to target the technician who is working in the cath lab. And really, the example which you gave about the pacemaker, it really worried me, because it's a frightening thing, and you need to make people aware, the people who are making purchases for you, that such clause need to be put in your specifications while you are putting the specifications for these medical devices.
Absolutely.
One thing which I want to highlight is about cyber insurance. Cyber insurance can give you financial security, but it will not give you security about patient confidentiality, because for patient confidentiality, you need to have foolproof mechanisms in place. That's it.
Yes. So, Dr. Farooq, I would like to mention, you raised absolutely fabulous points. So I will just mention one point on each of them. So from the pacemaker side, I mean, what I forgot to mention in my talk is the aspect of supply chains, because what happens is when you get a device, everything inside the device is not manufactured by the same manufacturer. It's actually a supply chain where, part of this thing is manufactured by X, part of it is manufactured by Y. And X and Y need to coordinate on security. So now there's a new regulation in the US, which has just come out in the last few months, is if you're actually using, say, for example, let's take an example of a medical institute in America. So they are using a device, right? Now the device has, say, 5 components, and 5 components are made by 5 different manufacturers. It is the responsibility of the hospital to make sure that the security is intact. It means they will have to run after those 5 vendors to make sure that their products are highly secure when they get inside the big product that is. So it's a supply chain issue. It's a huge problem, and recently there are some regulations. So pacemaker, similar thing. On the insurance side, absolutely, it gives financial security, but it doesn't give confidentiality because the data has already been leaked, right? But the point here is, insurance can at least promote you, because insurance is a security context. You pay premiums in insurance, right? So if your cyber posture is not good, the premiums will rise, and companies don't want to pay extra money, right? So they will want to make sure that their the security practices are getting better over time. And even though you cannot guarantee confidentiality, but you can guarantee recovery. So the insurance company might tell you, I want to make sure that there's a backup of this data, so that once the data is lost, I can get back the data, but I cannot stop a bad guy from exploiting that data. That I cannot stop. That you're right about. But again, you cannot solve the entire problem.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next question is from Dr. Beena. Dr. Beena?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Yeah. Hello. Hi, sir. This is Dr. Beena, and a very nice talk from your side. Sir, actually, I just wanted to know, just any training, we do mock drills. So whether there is a provision of doing a mock drill for this also, because training is very important, as you told and we all do. So is mock drill, there is some provision of mock drills in this also?
Excellent question, Beena. There it is. It's called cyber range exercises. So I don't know if Mahesh, you can type that out for the audience. It's called cyber range. So cyber range is, you invite a company which will come and they'll play a game. So it's called the red teams and the blue teams. So red teams and the blue teams, one is the attacker, one is the defender. That's how it is. So they will run these exercises within the company. Sometimes it could be, not telling people that there is such an exercise. It's just, so that people, they will not play it seriously, right? So sometimes you invite them, just tell them hack my company. I mean, you just tell them hack my company because you're the white hacker. And then in the process, you will get to know human behavior inside the hospital that, okay, you know, that's the mock drill. It's called cyber range. Absolutely. You know, there are companies like that you should take avail of. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And thank you so much, sir. And another question, you have told that vendors who give us these pacemakers and all, they should be seen whether they are certified for this cyber security, whether there is any body that validates these things. Is there any body for that?
Bina, I find you extremely knowledgeable. The answer is I do not know. In the US, I do not know of any. Can I safely say in India there are none? I'm just saying, you know, US is a better medical, you know, what you call system compared to the world in general. India is absolutely great, but I do not know of any organization or the regulatory body which does it. If there is, it's really good, then they should do it. But if you cannot have that body, then the hospital is responsible. Everything comes to the hospital in the end because they are using that. So they will be able, they should be able to run after the manufacturers. That's what the recent US regulation is saying. So I don't know whether it answers your question, but I guess I at least I might have led you to a proper direction.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, that is fine with manufacturer because nowadays there are so many things. Manufacturers tell all the things. So there should be some governing body for that. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Dr. Divyanshi Sharma. Divyanshi, you're on.
Good evening, sir. I'm Ankita Sharma, Deputy Planning from GMC Udhampur. Sir, I have a query. How we can identify the white and black hackers?
You mean how you can identify white and black hackers?
So you told me we can invite the companies for hacking our computers, and then we can know how they are. We can play the cyber games.
Okay.
But how we can identify they are white hackers or they are black hackers? They are actually hacking the data of the hospitals.
Yeah. So you see, if you're an employee of any sort, a doctor, staff, whatever, you don't need to know, right? Your goal is to do the best thing you can do. Why would you care whether it's a white hacker or you know, like a black hacker or whatever that is? Because say today somebody comes to MIT, and by the way, MIT is openly hackable. If you didn't know, MIT doesn't have a system. They invite people to hack MIT. You know, it's an open thing. It's the only institute in the world which openly publicizes, please come and hack us. And it's not that, you know, they're proud or arrogant that you cannot hack us. Actually, many times we get hacked. It's the learnings we get from each of the hacks that, you know, what is it that, you know, like people can think of, and that makes us devise better solutions in the long run. So the point here is, as an employee at MIT, I hardly ever know when I'm hacked. I just try to do my best, which is whatever. Now, the people who hired the white hackers, they are supposed to know. They will know anyway because they are trying to invite them that please come and, you know, run this exercise. So as a normal staff, you don't need to care who is black and who is white. Your goal is to just make sure you do the right thing. Does this answer? Okay. Ankita, right? I don't know. I forgot the name.
Guru, are you muted?
Okay. Farida, the next question is from Farida. Farida, you're around? Okay. We'll move back to Dr. Farooq Jan. Sir, your question, please.
No, I have already asked the question.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Arun has a question.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Ranjan sir, good evening. Thank you for the wonderful talk. My question is pertaining to this cybersecurity, and because you are an expert in this, how do you see AI and machine learning affect or impact this cybersecurity scenario, and how important it would be for hospital administrators to get acquainted with this AI technology and the machine learning thing? Like, how do you see it happening as an expert?
Very good question. Very difficult question. So let me tell you before I answer this that so the World Economic Forum, with whom I'm a member now, so they have a upcoming workshop next month, which is just on AI for medical devices, okay, or OT devices. Like how, I mean, they're also wanting solutions, or they're also wanting ideas. So your question is very timely. It's very relevant. Whether AI will impact, it'll impact in a huge way. Especially, these generative AI tools which have come up. It's very easy to fool the system. So all I can say is that AI will be used as an extremely, making fool of people and fool of experts. Forget about fool of people who are not experts. So that is something which, there needs to be different policies set inside the organization of how to deal with AI. And this is an open problem. It's just a new tool which has been devised. That is generative AI. And it is really causing a headache to most people everywhere. Medicine is also part of it. So we don't currently have solutions to go forward, that is management solutions, apart from, of course, you need to have AI specialists in your company. I mean, if you're trying to tackle AI, you need people who know AI well. So that is something which I can tell you upfront. As far as where this would lead to, this is a major research area going forward. If any of you are into, research of AI on medicine, this is a huge open area. For medical administrators, it will be a big headache. I can promise you that. But the fact is, the pile of headaches are so big that, which one will you start with? I'm just saying that start with the basic ones, at least get there first. And then AI's turn will come. But I'm really scared about the AI being impacting India because, as I said, India is the envy problem. And I think we are so backward in the sense of, pushing technology and seeing technology in its limits. It is possible. It is really a scary thing. I don't want to over scare you people, but I don't have a solution at this point of time. I mean, that's for the next 1 or 2 years. I think we are fighting to see, if something comes. I mean, we can have some solutions for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. It would be great if you could please share the link about the workshop that you are planning to go ahead with, if it would be possible for us to join us.
So that is by invitation, Arun. I'm just saying that the World Economic Forum and forum which discusses these issues, they are also saying this is a new topic we are exploring. So I'm trying to say it's a very timely thing. But I can send Mahesh some articles on the AI in medicine from Harvard Business Review and Sloan Review. Those are public, that can be shared, in a limited way. But the message I'm trying to convey, Arun, here is that irrespective of what the World Economic Forum discusses or what MIT, Harvard, and these places discuss, I mean, you have to realize the vision of AI, what AI can do. And for that, you don't need to talk to a medical expert or, people like us. You can just extrapolate in your mind that, what are the bad things which could happen. And if you just think about it a little bit, you'll realize many bad things could happen. And I've given you a hint. It can fool people like anything, fool experts. Say, for example, to give you a very personal example, maybe your wife is a doctor in the same hospital, right? Somebody can impersonate your wife. And the point is, how would you know that, it's not the wife? And basically, they're collecting data all the time. They know what happened last night between you and the wife. They will say, this was happening, that was happening. So I need the password to this and this. So you will get the password to the wife at least, right? I don't know. I mean, all I'm saying is that there are these scary stories which can come up with AI. And just use your imagination. Whatever you can imagine is possible using AI. That's all I can say. So that's why I'm saying I'm not going to scare you. We don't have solutions at this point, but I'll send something to Mahesh, maybe for you guys on the AI aspect, whatever I know. Yep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Dr. Atul has the next question. I think we are running over time, but Dr. Ranjan, I hope you're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm liking this. So Atul, I'll try to answer as many questions as possible.
Sure.
Sir, good evening, sir. Thank you for a nice presentation. I have a simple question. As India does not have any Data Privacy Act, and as you said earlier in your previous section, that hackers will be always ahead for all this possible, our security system. So how does USA has this act implemented, and how this does act working there? And how can India learn about those things? So can you get focus something from your insight from the USA?
Yeah. So first of all, Atul, I think there is a bill passed recently in India. I mean, there is news going around that there is this data protection bill.
Sir, they are trying to pass the bill, but currently in the parliament not be passed.
Okay, so you are saying, because I'm not following politics for the last 2-3 days, so you're saying till yesterday nothing has been passed. That's what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
It has been tabled. It has been discussed. It has been tabled. So it has passed in Lok Sabha. It will be presented in the Rajya Sabha.
Okay, okay. Because I have to give a webinar. You see, I'm not a data privacy expert in the sense I'm not keeping touch with this area for the last 2 years. But somebody invited me. I think that is public. I will share that video again with Mahesh once the webinar gets over there. That, you know, what is it? Because I have to keep pace with that. But in America, so, okay, before America, you have to go to Europe. Okay, I mean, because you asked the question about, America. So, you know, GDPR, are you familiar with GDPR?
No, sir, sorry. I'm not familiar.
Okay, so GDPR was introduced in 2018 or 2019, 2018, I think, which is an European, what you call, it's an European thing, it's General Data Protection Regulation. So it means that whatever data you are having inside your organization, you cannot sell the data, you cannot release the data without the permission of the client. If you release it, then you are subject to penalty of 4% of your revenue. Okay, so you have to get caught. Now, Facebook has recently faced a lawsuit. They lost the lawsuit because Facebook has done all the dirty things in the last 15 years. And, you know, in one of the cases, they got, indicted and they have to pay a certain amount of money. So this particular regulation is there in Europe, and you can clearly look that up. In the US, you see there is nothing called a federal law. US, everything is state-wise. California has a law, right? It's called CCPA. Now China also has something. I forgot the name, but China has a law as well. But that's for the whole country. So the point is, in the US, there are different states which are doing quite a bit about it. But there is nothing like you cannot release data. People are doing it all the time. If you're subject under law, then you will do it. If you're not subject under law, if you're subject under law, you'll probably not do it, and vice versa. Okay. So all I can say is the US is a bit better because they're better educated. They're very sensitive about privacy. And that's why I talk about culture, because the culture of privacy is there in the US, right? Which is not there. I will say it's less there in India. Right. So the point is the culture is there, which makes people more careful. So I can't even ask basic details from my neighbor. The neighbor could be a friend, but say I am asking this person that, hey, you know, where were you last night? I feel scared to ask that question because how do I know what he will feel about me?
Okay. Yeah.
So Atul, does it answer in some way?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perfectly fine, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello.
Guru, maybe you can ask the last question and then we can wrap up.
Sure. Can I ask one question, please?
Yeah, sure, Major. You have been listening. I think you have the rights to ask as many questions as you want. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. In fact, I was just reading up about this, and very clearly, healthcare organizations seem to be suffering a lot in terms of data breaches that are happening. The question here is, how is it that the hackers find it so easy to cut through healthcare organizations vis-a-vis organizations such as banks and financial institutions? It was just crossing my mind, and hence I thought I should ask you, why are we so vulnerable?
Okay, so good question. I have to be a little bit technical for this, Major. So you see, there is this. You know an onion, right? I mean, that's something which we all know. An onion has layers. Okay, so in any system, like a medical system, I mean, a hospital, for example, you have these layers. The smallest layer is your small devices, like, you know, sensors, etc., which you cannot see in the eye, but there are many, right? Then the next layer is big devices. I mean, bigger devices than that, like you have these machines which we see in movies that they calculate the heart rate and the heartbeat, whatever that is, right? So they are the bigger devices which you can see in the eye, and they also have sensors inside it, but they're a bit bigger. Then there is the bigger desktops, like the which you see on the in receptionist offices and all the other big cabins here and there. And then on top of that is the network, because everything operates on the network, and the network has the internal network and the external network, right? Now you see, I've given you these layers. Each and every layer, you will see there's an increased probability of hacking a medical institute. Why? Because devices might not have proper security. Who cares? It's just there. As long as they are showing the heartbeat and heart pulse, you're happy that it's at least working, right? How do you know that's the right heartbeat? It's possible that I have manipulated inside it, and you're seeing a different heartbeat, right? So these are issues which it's so easy to get inside the medical institute. As a hacker, I'm like, look, these guys don't know anything. That's our perspective, because we are the best hackers in the world. This is the medical institute. They are doctors. They have education in MD, PhD in this, that. How would they know, how a particular software protocol works? And we know the manufacturers, because they have access to the manufacturers who are manufacturing these devices. They know what are the drawbacks of those devices. So there is called a dark market. If you didn't know, the dark market where you can sell these for money. So you can have an account in the dark market, and you can say, I want this vulnerability in this pacemaker, for example. There are people who have exploited those vulnerabilities. They're selling them in the dark market for lots of money, so that you can give it to someone who can use to hack it. So ransomware as a service, RAAS, if you have heard this term, it is exactly this. So they basically, it's in the black market. They buy this and they launch it. So your son, well, I'm not trying to say whatever, say your son who is 5 years old, he can use that. He doesn't need to do anything. He just needs to go to the market, buy the product. They will give him instructions that, look, this is how you launch the attack, and launch the attack. As simple as that.
Awesome. So software as a service on one side, and ransomware as a service on the other side. Two extremes.
Yes.
Brilliant. So do we have any questions, or can we wind up?
So I just want to ask questions to Professor Nag if he's still around, because he has been patiently listening to me. Do you have any questions, sir? I mean, you want to ask me anything?
No. Thank you.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, sir, Dr. Nag, sir, to come on board today. And I think we have had a brilliant session from the speaker, Dr. Ranjan Pal, and we have also had a brilliant set of audience here today. It was an absolutely eye-opening and mind-blowing information that you have given us today. And I hope with all this information that you have shared with us, we become a more conscious audience, especially when it comes to cyber threats, and we start working on our cybersecurity and also increase the footprints of cybersecurity across our country. So thank you so much for that. I immensely thank the audience. I also thank Dr. Mahesh for having given me this opportunity to moderate this session. And I'm also immensely thankful on behalf of the Academy of Hospital Administration for hosting such wonderful webinars as a part of their DigiConnect series. So this is happening every fourth night on the first and third Saturday of every month. So we are immensely thankful to the AHA for getting you on board, and thank you so much. It was a brilliant session, and we will stay connected. So a very, very goodbye to all of you. Thank you.
I want to thank Ranjan for his informative talk, and maybe in future we would like to see you again in a year's time when there are more developments in the AI. To probably you might have better answers to those questions, how the AI will affect hospital cybersecurity. We know AI is helping medical field in improving the patient care, but how the cybersecurity can be improved, both using the AI and to be better prepared for the bad guys who use AI to attack the hospital. So probably we'll invite you again in a year's time. And
I'll be honored. And in the meanwhile, if I have any other additional details, I'll share with you, Mahesh. So as I said, in this data protection, I'm supposed to give a talk. We'll have to read up stuff, but that talk will be public. So I can definitely share the link after the talk once the video is made or something. And yes, and I would like to, first of all, I mean, I would like to thank you. You have been really instrumental in getting me here. I think Major, he has introduced me very well. He has been a patient listener, asked very good questions. The president of AHA India, who at least, approved of it. Again, we're talking of the boards and the directors, right? So at least in this case, it worked. And yeah, my collaborator, Professor Nag, he's basically a very silent person, but Mahesh, if you talk to him, which you will realize that, what is it that he knows a lot, right? So,
yeah.
So yes, thank you all. And I wish I can come again and maybe speak on another interesting topic in the future.
Yeah, and one last thing that I want to share with the members is that the SASH is being organized in December, and I had just now shared the link. So it's from 14th to 16th December. SASH is our annual national conference of the Academy of Hospital Administration. So please join us in big numbers, and abstract submission is also open or will get open. So just have a look at this. Link.
So I should be there in India that time. Am I invited? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Let me see if I can attend a medical conference, which I've never done.
You are most welcome to attend.
Okay.
And we will see how can we involve you as well. Will you be in Delhi during that time?
I can come. I'll come in the first week of December, and I generally stay in India for 2 months during the winter. So if it is a matter,
I think.
Yeah.
We would love to see you. Jagtar is inviting you. Who is the?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should not lose this opportunity to get Ranjan over during this period. I think.
Thank you so much.
America, I think we can lock it.
Yeah, we can lock it.
ये lock कर लेना चाहिए हम.
अच्छा ठीक है, नहीं lock कर दीजिए. वो मैं I'll definitely make it a point. So that I can attend, and yeah, let's see.
We were just actually today only we were